Today is Wednesday. It's the 18th of October 2023 and I am reading out of Eyes of Horus. It is a far memory book by Joan Marshall Grants, and she is a male in this book, Ra-up, an heir to the nomarch of the Oryx, and we are already in part 6 of this book, and this is chapter 6, Siege of the Royal City, and I've had a first reading of it, and I am continuing here. 3 times we made a simultaneous attack on all the 7 gates of the city, but from every attempt we were driven back without inflicting any injuries on the defenders, though our own men were beaten down under a hail of arrows, like grain in a summer storm. If we could not get into the city, we could at least ensure that they should not come out, as it might have been possible for a man to climb through our lines under cover of darkness. I caused encircling watchfires to be kept up from sunset to sunrise, and behind these were posted bowmen, who would find anyone on an easy target who attempted to cross the belt of firelight. It was Sebek who first suggested driving a tunnel under the walls, and this work was begun on the 3rd day of the siege. As it was essential that the besiegers be taken by surprise, the tunnel had to be started from a place which was hidden from any vantage point of the enemy. A small group of trees surrounding a well afforded the nearest available cover, and it had the added advantage that men going to and fro from it in daylight would be thought to be going there to draw water. It was about 500 paces from the centre of the west face, and as nearly as I could judge, the tunnel would come up in the garden of one of the houses in a road leading off the avenue of Sphinxes. As I knew these houses were occupied by minor officials of the court, it was possible that we should find ourselves under the protection of one friendly to Amamenet, which would make a secret entry enforced considerably easier. I expected the tunnel to be completed in about 7 days, but though I hoped to get many men through it before we were discovered, I knew I must be prepared to lose many, killed and wounded. As my country estate, which had come to me at the death of Heliopios, was only 2 hours from the royal city, I decided it would be the best place for the wounded to be taken, who were strong enough to stand a journey. I had not seen Dacleon since my marriage, more than a year before, and he was overjoyed to welcome me. In spite of Menhet's soldier having raided the surrounding countryside for grain and other supplies, I found everything much as I left it. The famous strain of oxen had still been sent to the Oryx to improve our herds, but there were still a few milk cows which would be useful for our needs. Experience gained during the pestilence made it easy for me to judge what we were likely to require for the care of the wounded, and under my orders Dacleon soon prepared suitable accommodation for 500. Many of the women wished to remain in the encampment with their men, but the rest were eager to help Dacleon and the household servants to make ready, and on the following day 25 who had been wounded in the skirmishes before the gates were sent there by litter. The work on the tunnel went on unceasingly, but by the 5th day I saw that its completion would take far longer than I had hoped. The ground through which it was being driven had at first been either sand or loose gravel, which made it necessary to shore up the sides with timber every 5 cubits to prevent caving in. Later there came rock, which meant that either the tunnel had to be considerably lengthened so as to avoid it, or else the 2 men working at the face had to pick laboriously at the stone, which slowed their progress to a few thumb joints an hour. It was after the 3rd of these delays that I received another messenger from Pharaoh. In spite of the capitulation of the old capital, the faction in favor of Menhed was daily growing in strength. Amenhotep could count on absolute loyalty only from his personal bodyguard, all of whom were watchers, although the nomarch still extended him the courtesies due to the holder of the crook and flail. He still maintained his outfit. He stressed the fact that if a decision could be reached while they still maintained this outward friendship, they might well rally to our cause with genuine enthusiasm. But if they had begun to show their dissatisfaction openly, even though we found means of suppressing their activities against us, we should have lost their willing cooperation, perhaps for many years. I had never before realized that a cat at a rat hole is as much a prisoner as the rat itself. The wars between Menhed and myself bound us both the slaves of time. As the moon grew towards the full, I began to be increasingly anxious about Mary. By now I had hoped to be victorious, and so to reach home before the ordeal of birth came upon her. I had news from her nearly every day, yet though I knew I joined her when we slept, I remembered only her presence, and not what she told me of her waking life. Then came another messenger from Pharaoh. To the captain of the Oryx, commander of my army of the south, know that you, our most loyal servant and our brother in Horus, have worked with strength and subtlety for the cause, and that this you will continue to do by every means in your power. Now must I tell you, both for your sake and my own, and therefore for all the peoples of Egypt who are so dear to us both, that time, on whom we have waited for 20 years with every courtesy, now is begun to declare himself our enemy. With every day, through the impatience of the nomarchs of the north, he gives increasing strength to Menhed. In the name of Pharaoh, I counsel you to call up Ra, to give you the guile of leopards, the strength of lions, and above all, the swiftness of the oryx, so that, by whatever means or strategy may come to your hand, you may bring Menhed, prince of the dead dynasty, to battle. If you should fail in this supreme endeavor, then that prince may receive the red crown, and though I still wear the white, there will be tribulation from the east to the west, from the sea to the land of God. For Egypt will once more be a house divided. The next chapter is entitled Voice of the Dead.